married, and myself and Veronica became a team. And so we're kind of the yin and the yang. She's the more customer service experience, and I'm more compliance and enforcement. So in a nutshell, the provider certification team was is put together and built to maintain sustainable working relationships with child care providers as they provide quality child care for families in our state. Our motto is high quality child care supports families, high quality child care prepares children for school and life. And in a nutshell, it is valued as an asset to all communities where families live. And so during this pandemic, what we've actually found the need is even greater for actual child care assistance to allow essential workers to actually support the front line during these times. And so you as the staff have also felt the pain finding providers. And so we actually really see the need for it. Provider certification, we actually govern and certify, review, and actually enforce the program policies. And we use Bulletin 139 as our framework and our actual guide to actually ensure that all CCAP providers are compliant. Go back one screen, please. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion sometimes as to the different provider types. Most of us all know the type 3 providers, which is the early learning centers. The confusion comes where we talk about in-homes and family child care providers. And even internally, we use the word in-home a lot, which actually explains or actually speaks to the providers that actually provide care in the child's home. The one that is more known is the family child care provider, where the actual child goes into the provider's home, and a family child care provider can care for no more than 6 children at any given time, whereas an in-home can actually care for as many children as resides in that residence. There is a little known other provider that we don't really talk about much, and that's our military early learning center. And that child care provider is licensed by the U.S. Department of Defense. In the state of Louisiana, we currently don't have any military early learning centers, but it does exist. Okay, so with regards to enforcement, there's some standard things that have to happen in order for a provider to actually get CCAP. When they actually begin the process, they can actually apply either electronically through CAFE or sending us an email with the actual application, the provider agreement, or faxing those documents to us. The R's and the U's and the type 3s and the M's all apply every year annually, and they have to submit a new provider agreement, whereas the schools actually certify every 2 years. They're going to be required to have a background check. They have to have CPR, first aid. They're going to take a pre-service orientation, and a pre-service orientation actually is kind of like a overall training for the provider that have no point of reference as to what the CCAP program is about. So with that actual training, we actually touch bases on a plethora of different things for as health and safety, how to create a case file, the emergency preparedness plan, things that are necessary for their annual trainings, even what they can kind of expect for inspections. Also, for the type 3s, and they have to have a academic approval certificate. And basically, the type 3s are getting an academic approval certificate. Basically, that allows the Department of Education to enter into an agreement in order for them to get federal funds. And so at that point, that's when they're going to actually adhere to our standards, as such as TS Gold and other things that actually address curriculum and also training and monitoring. And that is what kind of separates a type 3 from a type 1 and 2, which 1s and 2s do not get any federal funds. They're also going to have that time and attendance agreement, which actually ensures that they're going to use the TOTS equipment. In some cases, they may, like the schools, they'll use the IVR system. When a provider applies, they are also required to actually submit their rates. And they're going to do like a newsletter or anything that they would provide to a parent to actually let us know that these are the prices. To be transparent with regards to the public, they have to provide those documents to us. They're going to provide some banking information because we don't do any paper checks. Everything is done electronically through a batch. And so that process can take up to 10 to maybe up to 2 weeks on average. It's usually 10 business days. So when a provider actually has any issues with regards to their banking information, it can cause a delay, because what has to happen is our system has to actually verify that that account is active in a good banking institution or banking account. And so we try to make sure that whenever they're actually doing something with regards to their banking information, that they understand that process, because we don't want them having any delays in any kind of payments for their services. Provider certification. Let's see. Okay, go back. Okay, so provider certification reviews and process the application per procedure in Bulletin 139. Once a completed application and required documents are received, the provider is then issued a certification and a provider number. And the provider number is actually the number that we actually all know about, because that information is publicly facing information. So it eliminates us from doing any PI information to the public, so that families can actually identify those providers. Okay, so let's address the enforcement. Whenever a provider has actually entered into an agreement with the Department of Education, into a contract, there are things that we normally do to try to make sure that we never have to interrupt any service for those families, because ultimately those are the people that are going to be affected by that interruption. And so normally what we're going to try to do is we're going to send them notices, we're going to call them, we're going to do our very best to make sure that we never have to suspend those services. But in the rare occurrences, there are going to be some times that providers are not compliant, or they do not do what we need them to do to make sure that the agency is in compliance. And so the first thing would be a first violation would be a written notice to the provider. And that notice is pretty much going to detail what the provider did wrong and how they can remedy that problem. Then if they continue, then we'll actually proceed to the next step, which would be a second violation and another written notice to that provider. Again, pretty much telling them what they did wrong, but at that point we're maybe getting a little more, I guess, forceful, letting them know where they're at and the threat that they're actually entering into. And then finally, there's a third violation where we would actually proceed with terminating that provider, which can actually be imposed 12 months, 24 months, or permanently. In some rare cases, we have actually did it as less as 6 months, depending on the infraction. If we deem that maybe it was inadvertent, but they continue to show that they are not learning the lessons that we need them to do. Now, I talk about the 6 to 12 to 24 and permanent. In some cases, we will immediately go to termination as well. In those cases are going to be like center revocations through licensing, where there is the health and safety of the child is a threat, or that maybe someone has been harmed. And so those are some of the terms that we would actually enter into a permanent revocation or terminate that provider instantly. But again, like I said, we try never to actually do that. And we try to make sure that we offer as much counseling, technical assistance that eliminates that provider from losing their child care. These are some of the things that actually the provider help desk and the provider certification actually gets. You'll see there's a list of questions, or not questions, bullets that are the things that are normally frequented with regards to the provider help desk, or emails sent to provider certification. And of course, the standard is the provider agreement. The provider agreement governs everything, and so the providers are going to do that annually. If they do any kind of banking change, they're going to actually get a new direct deposit form. If they, let's say they do their hours of operation, that's going to be done with the provider agreement. If they change, let's say, their address, then that's going to trigger us to do a new actual application for that provider, because that's going to be considered a change of location. Or if they change owners, they're going to have to do a change of ownership. And again, like I said, those are the most frequent things, to update their contact information. We get a lot of calls about tax documents, SRTC bonuses, quality ratings, things like that. And what we'll do is front of those calls to the appropriate department. And so what we do is we just kind of field a lot of the questions and concerns by the provider, and those will actually go to the help desk. You can go to the next screen. And so here you'll see that there's a map of where your actual designated help desk personnel or provider certification personnel is actually whatever region they're in. And so as analysts, when you're actually having an issue, this is how you identify who's the best person to reach out, so that you can have develop a rapport, and also with regards to the worker, but these workers actually have a rapport with the actual providers in that area, and so, or that region. And so sometimes they can actually smooth through some of your challenges that you may have. And when all else fails, then it'll escalate to myself or Veronica, and then we'll actually step in with regards to handling those issues. Generally, Veronica is going to do the customer service, and when I'm pretty much calling, I'm telling them why they're wrong and why they have to comply or suffer some type of suspension. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Veronica, and she'll explain what the provider help desk does more in detail. We can't hear you.
No. Okay, the key element for both and thank you, Romney. The key element for both the provider help desk and provider certification is communication with the providers. And through that communication, we've been able to establish, I believe, an excellent rapport with the providers for the most part. We have a few, they want answers, right away and get a little, but for the most part, the relationships are there. Our admin coordinators on both teams, certification and provider help desk, program specialists, they know them by name. I'm going to share a few thank you notes later at the end of this presentation, and but they know them by name. The whole team is resourceful. We're trained. We're cross-trained. We're knowledgeable. We point our providers to the resources they need to be successful on a daily basis. Some of them we hold their hands. A lot of them call and they ask by name. But communication is the key. We pride ourselves on following up. We've had an influx of providers, Romney. You correct me, since Corona, since the pandemic began. At one point, we were up to over 300 more. So, of course, the demand is even greater now as far as queries that come in that we have to address. But we do that. We make the connections, even with licensing, CBC, other units. You can go to the next one. But collectively, we are the Provider Help Desk Provider Certification Team. This is just a few of the tools that we use with our providers to help them to be successful. First and foremost are our program specialists and our administrative coordinators. I cannot sing their praises enough. And I know Romney feels the same way. A skilled, knowledgeable, professional group of ladies, many of which I found here. I found in the Provider Help Desk. So, I'm looking at something Melinda just sent. We'll do that. But though these ladies are skillful, knowledgeable, the providers look for them, call for them by name. So, and when they don't have them, matter of fact, it's funny. One just sent me an email the other day saying, no matter what you do, leave this person as mine. I'm not going to say that because I get that often about, I'm not calling a name, but leave this person as my specialist. Don't move her, no matter what you do. Even some of them, it's funny, and I think they're doing it. I think they speak to the great job that they do. Some even think Veronica Johnson and Jolanda are program specialists. No, they say that's my helper. They don't know the legal term, but they say that's my help, and that's what they want. They don't care what the rest of them can do. They call for them, and I smile like a proud mother. But first and foremost, the team ensures their success. Provider agreement. We always encourage those providers to read it because this is the standard that you'll be held to as a certified CCAP provider. So read what it is you're coming into and what you're going to be held accountable for, because a lot of them don't. So we encourage them to make sure they read the fine print. Of course, the early childhood newsletter that gives the latest updates and what's trending in the whole department. The provider ticket system. Yeah, we had so many queries coming because of the pandemic, and even now through our emails, through LDE CCAP, through Metastorm, through it's just different ways. Some would go to Melinda, Dunya, us, myself. Our emails were overflowing. So I came up with, let's direct them to the provider ticket system. That's what it was created for in 2017 when I came aboard. Let's get as many as we can. That way our data is there. We can respond. All the communication is there. And for the most part, they're doing it. We still have a percentage which we direct back, and some new ones we're trying to get there. But for the most part, it's there. It keeps us busy. We earn, like Monique Rouge says from New Orleans, we earn our coins. Appointments with the program specialist. They can make appointments to speak with the specialist about their issue. Technical assistance for new providers. We offer this before pre-pandemic. It was in person, but now we're doing virtual. We plan to offer one next month because we have like Danielle's term, plethora of new providers. Quarterly provider help desk email. We decided to do it quarterly, which contains forms. Those forms that they use, and just reminders about TOTS, about the program as a whole, house eligibility, the recertification, everything. You can go to the next one. And we even do mass emails to providers about everything, IVR, the census, reminders, your payments, everything we know that they need to be reminded and abreast of. Again, on the horizon, I already mentioned about the technical assistance. We're going to have a provider forum later this year in August. And it's to educate, allow the providers a chance to ask their questions learn new updates where we are with CCAP, the same for the parents, and we're especially excited about that because Melinda had us last year to begin including our parents in our forums, and they were able to ask questions and they understand the process. Many parents think this is the provider with this mandate or this rule. No, it's CCAP. And so they're able to ask and see and learn and become acclimated to the processes of CCAP in the department as a whole, because we also had licensing with us. And so yes, and again, the provider agreement is due this Friday. Romney's team sent it out. And so it's due in this Friday. Every year that's a new process. It's updated, it's edited. And then we're also planning these mini how-to videos. And that's to help all of our providers, because a lot of times, like I said, we're holding their hands and we're taking them through processes. So we envision doing the CCAP 10, what instances you fill it out, how, and just a little short video we can hopefully put in the CCAP library and they can reference that. Payment resource tools, how to complete that, how to complete your certification, those kind of things. These are just a few thank yous that I wanted to share with everyone. And the reason why I wanted to share it is because even though they mention provider help desk certification, they include the whole team: household eligibility, fraud, the scanners, call center, everybody. It's inclusive. That's why I highlighted that in yellow. Thank you. Your office has been awesome in this time of the very uncertain. Then at the bottom, these times have been exceptionally trying, and to know you're working around the clock like we are to make changes great for our jolly kids and all kids, we're very appreciative. These past few months, I felt at times I was alone. We got that a lot. It's so much we could share. As I was the last center in my area to close, and then we reopened 3 weeks later. Go on, Karen. And then this final thank you, I'd like to take the time out personally, go back, personally to thank all of you guys at the department for all the hard work and dedication. So this goes to everybody. She's appreciative of the grants, and just they know that we're working hard. And just for somebody to say thank you. So give yourselves a round of applause. You can go to the next one. And this is our awesome team. On the front row, first row at the left, we have Miss Jolanda Harness. Next to Miss Jolanda Harness, we have Veronica Johnson. We have Shalonda Bird. We have our student worker, Miss Shatoy Peeler. We have Miss Rhonda Miles. Next to Miss Rhonda Miles, we have Miss Tamika Tate Clayton. We have Miss Christy Parker Duchamp. Okay, I'm trying. And then next to Miss Parker, we have Miss Duchamp. We have Miss Shirley Foster. We're going to leave that gentleman in the middle for the last. Okay, then at the bottom left, we have Miss Cassandra Bremer. We have one of our honorary members, because during the pandemic when we needed help, they reached out. Ms. Buckley, do you have something we can do? Can we assist you? Miss Brenda Pikes. Their assistance, it was so appreciated and needed. Miss Stephanie Holloway, that's myself. Next to me is Miss Heidi Gottschalks. That's what my Bluetooth says, Heidi Gottschalks. And then next to her, Ms. Linda Williams is another honorary member of the Provider Help Desk certification team, because she helped us as well. Then we have in the middle our newest member, who we're glad to have, Miss Sydney, is it Ballot or Ballet? Ballot, charge it to my head, not my heart. Then we have another honorary member who I thank you, Miss Sandra, for allowing us to share her, Miss Garcia Paul. She helps us also additionally, and when she is free from there, she comes aboard and she helps. And then in the middle,
it's me, Charlie, and these are my angels.
And that's it. God have mercy. I love it. See, I didn't know what you meant by that. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Romney. Oh.
Who's your Veronica?
Ms. Buckley, Mr. Romney, I posted a question I'd like you to address really quickly. Tell us what was the biggest challenge you had in making these two teams become one, and what have you learned from each other?
Okay, so I'll speak first, I guess. one of the biggest challenges was actually finding our continuity when you actually are merging two different teams with different styles of addressing the public or dealing with things. Like I said, I'm more of enforcement and policy, and so a lot of times I'm just looking at it in black and white. And while I advocate for the provider, at the end of the day, I'm actually going to tell them, what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. Whereas when Veronica came in, she was actually the actual, I guess, voice for the providers. And so in a lot of cases, she's actually talking to them and kind of hearing their issues and their concerns, and us trying to find a happy medium to actually address those concerns and bring it to, when we can't address it, bring it to management. But ultimately, that was the biggest challenge, is just trying to not step on each other's toes and working as a unit. And, even when we may not always agree, we had to come together and be able to work those challenges out amongst ourselves and present a united front. So that was one of the biggest challenges that I faced. Veronica, you can share your story.
I'm just going to say, just that growing stage, when you go through that forming, storming, and norming, just coming together and realizing that the merge has to take place. Again, like you said, respecting the difference, forming the team. You had your differences, and that's one thing I really applaud our team for. I believe in the devil's advocate. Say your piece, just say it respectfully. We don't need a bunch of yes people. We need people with different perspectives, because we're working together for a common cause for our providers. And then there's that norming where everything kind of just pans out, and we know now, hey, this is our culture. This is what it's going to be. So now we're at the stage to where, what's next? How can we better serve them? So we had to go through those 3 stages to get there. So just the coming together and the whole growth part, and I appreciate the fact that we both wanted it, our teams wanted it, and the teams were pretty much gelled because they knew each other already. But bringing those 2 processes together and making them one, it took some growing, but we are there. So, and then what was your other question? You asked another question. You said challenges, and what else did you say, Rodney?
You're on mute.
I wanted all the teams to hear this, because a lot of teams struggle with building that camaraderie that you guys have built. And I look at, you had the hardest job in building it, because you came from 2 separate entities, and then you had to build into one. Tamika joined the team, Christy joined the team. There was a lot of bringing in other people, but you were able to bring it together, and to bring it together cohesively. You deal with your issues and your problems within your team. So I think that is very important for other teams to know. And my other question was just, what have you learned from each other that you could share?
I want to go first. I learned, y'all coined the phrase, he my work husband. That's a sharp little dude. Yeah, who's that jacket? But he's a sharp little dude. I'm gonna tell y'all what I told the team, and we know it, but we highly respect each other. And yes, we have our difference. We roll our eyes, we walked off, and I've been mad, but but at the same time, we know, and I've said this, a disagreement not gonna separate us. Division, no, it's not gonna happen, because it's not about what I want. It's not about what Romney wants. It's the best consensus for the group to implement for the providers that we serve. So I don't care if it comes from Jolanda. I don't care if it comes from Shalonda. It can come from the student worker. We respect each other most of all. And I'm just a firm believer, not trying to bring God into it, but he can give it all to one person. So respect your team as a whole and let them talk, share. But then as a team, you have to be mature enough to where, hey, if you don't go with Veronica's idea, I'm not looking at everybody cross-eyed, or I'm not mad because you didn't pick my idea. No. It's what works best. And we've learned to be respectful, and I'm going to say this and be quiet. The last thing is the team know, and I tell them all the time, come to me. They can respectfully check me. If Because as managers, your mind is always on the next thing, and you're not always concerned about feelings. When we had that supervisory class, I want to say, I think Danielle and Melinda, y'all were kind of in the red, and I saw where I needed to kind of come over in the red. I think that was the color in some areas, because you're goal oriented. You're about the end result, the final outcome. And I've adjusted to that in some instances, because I used to be very careful about not wanting to step on toes. Well, I'm past that now. But if it ever comes across wrong, and they can tell you they're on here, come check me. They're adults. We highly respect all of them. So if anything is said and I'm not too big to say, you know what? I was wrong. You're right. And then when we're presenting, we don't embarrass each other. We text each other. You missed this, say this, do this, because we want you to shine. It ain't about what I know. It ain't about all my knowledge. It's not about me, because collectively we are still CCAP. We're part of the bigger team. Thank you.
Okay, so what did I learn? I've learned that she got a good appetite. No, I'm just
Oops.
because she always snacking. But all jokes aside, what she did is she actually helped me along to be, I guess, a little softer with regards to the providers. When you've actually dealt with policy and procedures so much, it's usually, like I said, it's always just the black and white. And so her coming from the actual experience of being a provider, for so to speak, she got a chance to see the other side of the coin, and so she actually really, imparted that portion of herself into me. And so again, it actually gives us a lot of balance, and so that's the thing that I've learned from her.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Great presentation. Turn it back to you, Karen.
All right. Jackie, you need to come back from the Golden Gate Bridge for a little while to do your presentation. But first, I would like you to pull a door prize. $764,193. 764,193. Oh, hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Lisa, my desk partner over there. Okay. Okay, hearing Veronica and Romney talk about their experiences working with each other, I just want to say that that's one of the things about TOTS. I get to work with the providers, I get to work with Romney, and I get to work with Veronica, and I get to work with all the eligibility staff. So that's one of the things that I enjoy about TOTS. And for TOTS, this is going to be a review for a lot of people, but there are a couple of things that are new with regard to the IVR. So we'll go through it quickly. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. If Karen, you'll keep an eye on the chat box. Okay, so we're going to just give a quick overview, and I do mean quick because you're all pretty familiar with it. We're going to talk about the point of service machines, which you all know as the TOTS machines, and the interactive voice response, some troubleshooting, and then some resources for everyone. And Karen's going to send you the PowerPoint where I put the links in it, so you should be able to just click on them. So TOTS is the method we use to gather attendance, excuse me, in all of the facilities now. The POS machines or TOTS machines are used in the type 3 and the type R providers, and the interactive voice response has been used with, up until this point, with type E and type U providers. U is in the child's home, care in the child's home. But we'll talk a little bit more about what the pandemic as it relates to the IVR as well. The records that TOTS creates for us gives us a definitive time of arrival and departure at the facilities. And this gives us something to pay providers on, also something for fraud to use as indicators that everything may not be on the up and up. So again, it enables the LDOE to make timely payments, accurate payments, and it prevents us from having to do manual payments. It reduces manual payments greatly. So that's why if we can get them resolved, issues with TOTS resolved in those 6 or 7 days that they have to correct them, then that's one less manual payment we'll have to make. So that's why I sometimes am following up with you often to find out the status, because that will eliminate some manual payments for the payment group. All providers are required to use one or the other of these methods to record attendance. Now, I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks contacting providers. We've sent out emails and we've tried to reach everyone to let them know that they now should be collecting attendance either by the IVR or by the TOTS machines, whatever is safest during the pandemic. So we'll talk a little bit more about the IVR, but we still have a group that is a very small number that still are a little bit reluctant, but we'll get there. Okay, Karen. Okay, so the machines are, as you know, you walk up there and you put your finger on there, it records the time and attendance for the time that you're standing there, and you can also do a previous check-in on it. And the providers are also able to use the TOTS provider portal to be able to monitor the check-ins and check-outs. So you use one or the other to check in, and then you can use the TOTS portal. The provider can use the TOTS portal to say, yes, everybody has checked in and out for the day. So if they would do that at the end of the day every day, we probably wouldn't have any manual payments. So the IVR, it was prior to the pandemic, we were using it for the type U and type E providers, school and in the family's home. Since the pandemic, we've opened it up to allow any provider who chooses to use the IVR to collect attendance. They can use either the IVR or the TOTS machine, but they cannot use both. So whatever the provider chooses for the families to use, all families have to use the same method to collect attendance. So go back here. So some of the challenges have been with the IVR, the provider, it's a little more work intensive for providers because they definitely have to check every day to make sure that the families have checked in and out. For the families, they have to input dates and times. When they don't do it right away, they drop the children off and they don't do it right away and they have to use a previous time and date. They have to input that information. So you have to listen really carefully. And if they mess that up, then they're going to get error messages. And then there's also the selection of the provider. If the family's been on the system a while, or if they have more than one child and there's a list of providers, sometimes they don't listen all the way through the list to the family to get the right provider. They'll choose the wrong one and then they'll get a message that says they're not authorized. So it requires some listening on the part of the person who's calling in, and it also requires a little more work for the provider to monitor it. So some troubleshooting, and you've seen these in every presentation that you probably have seen me do, but they don't change. There's still the errors that we get when people try to check in and out and they have problems. So the first thing that I ask them is, what message did you get? Well, often they don't know. And then the next time they'll say, well, it didn't recognize my finger, which that's generally not the situation. But so I have to start trying to figure out what's wrong with their case. So I look to see, is there an authorization for the current month? Is it on CAPS and is it on TOTS? And sometimes it's on CAPS, but not TOTS. And one instance when that'll happen is if it's a homeless case, coded as homeless on CAPS, but the eligibility staff failed to put in the temp hours, then it will not transmit to TOTS. And I don't think that it gives them a message telling them that it didn't transmit. So that's usually one of the first things I look at. Is the parent using the correct child number? That's even more crucial when they're using the IVR, that they use the correct child number. Is the parent or guardian designated, the designee authorized to scan? Sometimes they go in to scan and they're not actually listed on the case, so they're not able to. Is the case homeless? We just talked about that. And is there a complete transaction? So if they can't check in and out and it says check-in exists, it also gives them a date and time that they need to, that they have a check-in. They know they need to check out for that. So that's when the message is important. So there's not a complete transaction. It'll say a check-in exists, or they'll be trying to check out for a time when there is no check-in. So that's why the message becomes important. So I've had this question asked a lot is, if the family uses the IVR, how will I know? Well, you really won't know. We do get a report, and if we ask Conduent to drill down in that information, we would be able to get it if we needed it, probably. But you know, just looking at the transactions, you don't know. They look the same on TOTS. It's recorded the same as if they were using a TOTS machine. So you won't know, but it does record all the transactions. If they use the IVR, it records them just the same as if they were using the TOTS machines. How can a provider avoid transactions if they use the IVR? Well, you know, if they use the TOTS machines, they can avoid them on the TOTS machines, but they need a transaction number. We've also learned that if they use the TOTS machines, they can call the 888 number and the representatives will help them avoid a transaction. But if they use the IVR, the customer service representative can't help them avoid that. They have to void it using the IVR. So they call the same number that the same number that the client calls to check in on the IVR, they'll use that number to call in to void a transaction. It has to be the provider to void it. It can't be the client. So the provider has to call in. And those that information is on the LA TOTS website, but I can also, if you want to email me, I can send you exactly where to get the information of how to void a transaction using the IVR. It's on those tip sheets that we sent out, the one that had the blue and the little girl on it. It was blue when we did the training, but I can send it to you again. For resetting staff passwords, you can send that to me, or I can set it. If I'm out of the office for an extended period of time, Veronica, I believe, can reset it for you. For provider passwords, I cannot reset the provider passwords. They have to call this the 888 number and speak to a customer service rep to get theirs reset. So here are the links I was speaking about that we commonly use for TOTS. The link to the tip card, you see it near the bottom for the family, and there's a tip card there for the provider. And I believe that one will tell them how to avoid a transaction that was conducted on the IVR. That 281-1093, that's where they call to check in and out. That's also where the provider will call to void a transaction that was gathered on the IVR, using the IVR. Okay, so that concludes the formal comments, but I'm open for to answer any questions that you have, or you can put them in the chat box. Oh, I do have one more slide. For customer service, where's Trevor? Is he on the call? Trevor knows that this is my favorite thing, is to close the loop. So when I send you a question about a case and I call back and I say, what was the outcome of this case? I'm not being nosy. I just want to know that we can close the loop on that. That's another area of good customer service. We can close the loop on that inquiry. We know that they've been taken care of. They can now check in and out using the portal or whatever they're using. And so that if we see transactions in the in TOTS, if I can see transactions, I'll know that they were able to check in and out. So always close the loop. Thank you.
You don't have any questions on the chat?
We pulling another door prize?
Yes, ma'am.
It is. Seven 764-191. 764-191.
Next.
764-194. 764-194. I think some people have checked out on this. Check this out. 764-242. 764-242.
That would be me.
Linda,
Okay.
congratulations.
Oh, yay.
Hi, Miss Linda. Good morning.
Karen, I posted a question, and I need every single person on here to answer that question. It doesn't have to be long. It says, what was one wonderful thing that you've learned today, or something that was re-emphasized that made you rethink, refocus, or that was revitalizing to you? So guys, I need everybody to answer this because I'm definitely gonna look at it. Everybody.
You want us to answer in the chat, Miss Melinda?
Yes, ma'am, in the chat.
Okay.
Nothing wrong. You know, you don't need to write a dissertation.
Okay.
Karen and Jack, who worked so hard on this. This is excellent conference. I've participated in conferences on a national level, webinars and conferences, and I have never been on one that is as well put together as this. I even got a snack bag while I was, that's why I went on this.
Shouldn't have gave you that food.
Very. Yes, indeed. I didn't eat this morning. I was trying to run. I ended up throwing away my breakfast. And I came in here, brought up breakfast, and just started. And anyway, it got cold, and I didn't want it. But anyway, I'm serious, Karen. You do an excellent professional job in what you do. You and Jackie bring so much to the team. You have so much passion. You work so well with everyone. And I just want to thank you. I really, really want to thank you.
Okay, and thank you for allowing us to be, I'm sorry, I have feedback. Melinda, I need a new computer. But anyway.
No, Eric, I need a new computer.
Oh, I already told Eric, but I need you to move me to the top of the list. Okay. But anyway, thank you very much. And Jackie and I enjoy working on the conference. Oh, I just had a senior moment. I'm sorry. But but you know what I really wanted to say is we've had good participation this morning. Almost everyone was on the call and participating, because I could see by the participants number. I looked at the registration, and we had a lot of information in chat. So thank you all for making this easy.
That's it. Guys, again, please, I want you to make sure that you join tomorrow, that you're on for the whole time, that you stop doing what you're doing and concentrate on what's being said and what's being taught. It may just be a refresher for you. It may be that something's taught that you pick up. This isn't quite right. I need to talk to Ms. Karen after this so that we can make sure we get the right information out to everyone. But you guys are needed. I'm not just saying that to pat you on the back. You guys are awesome. You do an awesome job. And when we do this every year, it's so that, you know, many of you say all the teams are on the line. Everybody they're not doing the same things. Well, that's why we started doing this, so we could bring everybody together and we could teach all the concepts. But you guys have to get involved in order for us to make sure everyone's on the same page. I thank you guys so, so much. And I can't wait till tomorrow.
Okay, if there are no other questions, y'all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Make sure you put your answer in the chat because I'm going to be looking.
Karen, did you get my email?
Who, me?
No. Let me check.
Oh, they off. Just for
No, they're not off. They're
report to work at 8:30. They need to be at work for 8 because the conference starts at 8 a.m.
Guys, Miss Sharon Booker is saying you need to log on for 8 a.m. The conference is scheduled to start at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, let me add a little addendum to that. If you have household eligibility case processing, that starts at 8 a.m. Budgeting starts at 8:30 a.m. and quality and self-care starts at 9 a.m. Ooh, this feedback.
Well, that's great. So eligibility needs to be on by 8 a.m. Supervisors, you need to be on checking to make sure all of your team members are on.
Okay, thank you. And again, have a great rest of your day.
Great job, Miss Karen. It's going well so far.
Thank you.
All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All righty.
Miss Karen,
Yes.
this Jolanda. Did you get my question to you?
Yes, ma'am. And wait, what was your question?
I sent you that. I don't have anything scheduled for tomorrow.
You don't?
No.
Okay, well, I need to put you in quality and self-care. I'll do that in a minute.
Okay.
Neither do I.
Oh, how did I forget the two of you? Y'all sure? Okay, I'll check though.
I didn't need to be in there. I was like, look at God.
Oh, you're gonna be in
I'm
there.
going to be in there. Okay.
If anybody else, send me an email.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Veronica, you're staying on here with me, huh? To the end. You're muted.
I'm reading what's in the chat, girl.
Oh, yeah, it is.
If you gotta go, you can hang up. I'm good. Cause baby, you done did this.
But you can stay on. You can stay on.
I'm just reading them. Come in. Who is that? The guy I gotta mess with my friend on professional.
Tell her you are.
You talking about me? You hear? I'm talking about Romney. Look,
She can hear you, Heidi.
Talking about Romney. She gotta go mess with Romney. He in the office? Talking about because he was all professional.
Oh, okay.
I want to give me some lunch. I don't know what I want. You know what I want? I want to sit down. I want somebody to bring me some.
Veronica, I'll give you access to the chat. I need to sign off, and I'm gonna sign you off.
That's enough. Okay.
All righty.
Which Veronica?
Look, are you still doing?
All of y'all can sign off. Bye, Veronica.
Do you still do what
Johnson.
is it at the end? The surveys at the end?
Yeah, I'm gonna do those in Power DMS.
All right. Well
I have
organized.
to.
It's well organized, Karen.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.